Ever hit that moment where you realize life has been on autopilot, and suddenly you're 30 with barely a dime saved? Yeah, that's me. Every paycheck seems to vanish into bills, rent, and a few guilty pleasures. And here I am facing the harsh reality of zero savings. Is it too late to turn things around? Can I claw my way out of this financial pit before it's too late? Buckle up as I share my journey, my missteps, and hopefully, the path to financial redemption. Let me take you back a bit. I'm Alex, a 30-year-old graphic designer living in a bustling city where the cost of living feels like a constant uphill battle. I'm single, which you might think makes managing finances easier, but somehow it doesn't. I've been working in the creative industry for almost a decade now, bouncing between freelance gigs and full-time roles. The inconsistent income flow has always made it hard to establish a financial safety net, but truth be told, I didn't prioritize it either. This realization didn't hit me overnight. It's been creeping in slowly. I'd always thought there's time, I'll save next month. But next month never came. And here I am grappling with the consequences. It started becoming painfully clear a few months ago when I was hit with an unexpected car repair bill. It wiped out what little I had, and I found myself borrowing from friends just to make ends meet that month. The anxiety started creeping in, a constant companion whispering doubts and fears. What if something more serious happens? What if I lose my job? These thoughts became louder, gnawing at my peace of mind. Initially, I brushed them aside, telling myself I'd find a way out, but the nagging fear lingered. I felt stuck in a loop, juggling rent, utilities, and the occasional night out to keep my sanity. In sharing this, I hope to not only figure out a way forward but also connect with others who might feel similarly lost and overwhelmed. Maybe together we can find the light at the end of this financial tunnel. As if the mounting pressure of my dwindling finances wasn't enough, life decided to throw a curveball my way. About 2 months ago, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, my company announced a round of layoffs. I had always felt somewhat secure in my job, but the sudden news hit me like a freight train. That constant whisper of anxiety turned into a deafening roar. I managed to keep my job, but with fewer projects coming in and a significant pay cut, I found myself in a precarious situation. My already tight budget was now stretched to its limits. The occasional nights out that helped maintain my sanity became a luxury I could no longer afford. Even my weekly coffee treat turned into a guilty indulgence. The stress was palpable, a heavy cloud hanging over every decision I made. Every expense was scrutinized, every dollar spent weighed against its necessity. I found myself lying awake at night, calculating my expenses, trying to find any room for saving, any corner I could cut. But every time I thought I found a solution, something else cropped up. To make matters worse, my freelance gigs, which usually supplemented my income, started to dry up. My usual clients were either cutting back or putting projects on hold, citing economic uncertainties. It felt like I was standing on quicksand, and every effort to pull myself up only sank me deeper. Frustration and fear began to intertwine, painting my days in hues of uncertainty. I was overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness that I couldn't shake off. Every bill that came in felt like a ticking time bomb, and I dreaded the moment it would explode. I tried to stay optimistic, reminding myself that things could turn around, but the reality was harsh. My savings account remained empty, a constant reminder of the precariousness of my situation. I felt embarrassed and ashamed, wondering how I had allowed things to get this far. In my heart, I knew I had to do something, anything, to break free from this cycle. I started researching financial advice online, reading about budgeting techniques, and looking for ways to increase my income. But each article and advice column only reminded me of what I should have done years ago. I knew I needed to act, but with the weight of everything, each step forward felt like a Herculean task. Yet, amidst the chaos, a glimmer of determination began to flicker. I couldn't let this be my reality forever. Somehow, I had to find a way to navigate this storm. Determined to claw my way out of this financial quagmire, I started with the basics, creating a budget. I listed out every expense, scrutinizing my spending habits with the harsh light of reality. Those small indulgences that seemed trivial at the time, like the occasional meal delivery or streaming service, added up significantly. I vowed to cut them out, at least temporarily. Next, I sought advice from friends who seemed more financially savvy. A close friend recommended a financial app that tracked expenses and offered saving tips. Embracing technology as my ally, I dove in, setting alerts to keep me on track. I also stumbled upon online forums where people shared their financial journeys. and it was oddly comforting to know I wasn't alone in this struggle. To boost my income, I dusted off some old skills. I started teaching weekend workshops in graphic design, something I hadn't considered before but found surprisingly rewarding. It wasn't a massive influx of cash, but every little bit helped. Yet, just as I began to see a glimmer of hope, the universe threw another wrench in the works. My landlord informed me of an upcoming rent hike, a consequence of the rising market prices. This news was devastating. It felt like the universe was conspiring against me. The additional expense threatened to undo all the progress I had painstakingly made. I found myself at a crossroads, contemplating drastic measures like moving to a cheaper place, but the thought of uprooting my life was daunting. I had built a semblance of stability here, and the idea of starting over was overwhelming. Despite this setback, I refused to let it derail me completely. I reached out to my landlord, hoping to negotiate a more manageable increase. It was a long shot, and while they showed some understanding, the reduction was minimal. Through these challenges, I learned the importance of resilience and adaptability. Each hurdle taught me something new about both finances and myself. I realized the importance of not just reacting to circumstances, but proactively seeking solutions. My journey is far from over, and while the road ahead seems daunting, each step forward, no matter how small, brings me closer to a more secure future. This experience has become more than just about money. It's a lesson in perseverance and the unwavering belief that I can navigate whatever life throws my way. The financial strain took a toll on me in ways I hadn't anticipated. Emotionally, I felt trapped in a cycle of shame and guilt. Every time I looked at my bank statement, a wave of regret washed over me, a constant reminder of what I hadn't done when I should have. It was as if I was carrying an invisible burden that grew heavier with each passing day. Socially, I began to withdraw. Invitations from friends became less frequent as I declined more often than not, citing work or fatigue as excuses. In reality, I was trying to avoid the awkwardness of admitting I couldn't afford the simple pleasures I used to take for granted. This self-imposed isolation only deepened my feelings of loneliness and frustration. My work life suffered too. The stress seeped into my professional demeanor, making it hard to focus and stay creative. Deadlines that used to invigorate me now loomed like insurmountable obstacles. I found myself second-guessing my decisions, doubting my abilities in a field where confidence is key. The impact on my mental health was profound. Sleepless nights became a norm, with my mind racing through endless what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. The anxiety that once whispered now shouted, overwhelming me with its relentless demands for solutions I couldn't seem to find. It was as if I was in a constant state of fight or flight, with no clear path to safety. I grappled with a pervasive sense of hopelessness. Every attempt to regain control felt thwarted by circumstances beyond my control, leaving me questioning my ability to turn things around. This internal conflict was exhausting, and I often found myself on the brink of giving up. Yet, amidst the turmoil, there were moments of clarity that reminded me of my resilience. I realized that acknowledging my situation was the first step toward change. I began to see the importance of self-compassion, understanding that my worth wasn't defined by my bank balance, but by my ability to persevere. This journey has been anything but easy, but it's taught me invaluable lessons about myself and my priorities. I'm learning to navigate the complexities of adulthood with a newfound determination, hoping that with each passing day, I inch closer to the stability and peace of mind I desperately seek. After months of battling against the tide, I found myself staring at the possibility of more drastic measures. Each day felt like a balancing act on a razor's edge, and the weight of financial insecurity was becoming unbearable. I began to seriously contemplate the idea of downsizing my life, moving to a cheaper area, selling off possessions, or even taking on a roommate. The thought of leaving my current apartment was daunting. It wasn't just a place to live, it was my sanctuary, filled with memories and a sense of stability I desperately clung to. Yet the numbers didn't lie, and reality was painting a stark picture. Could I really afford to stay? The idea of declaring bankruptcy also crossed my mind, a last resort that felt like admitting defeat. The social stigma attached to it was terrifying, and I worried about the long-term consequences, how it might affect my future opportunities or my own self-image. Friends suggested I consider moving back home to save money, a notion that felt both comforting and suffocating. It was a potential safety net, but also a step back from the independence I had worked so hard to achieve. I wrestled with these options, each carrying its own set of fears and doubts. The emotional toll of making such a decision weighed heavily on me. I feared losing what little autonomy I had left and the judgment from those who might not understand my predicament. Uncertainty loomed large, casting a shadow over my thoughts. I felt torn between the necessity of taking action and the fear of what those actions might mean for my future. Would I be able to rebuild? Could I find my footing again after such a drastic change? Despite the fear, a part of me knew that something had to give. It was a pivotal moment, one that required courage and the willingness to embrace change, however uncomfortable. The path ahead was unclear, but I was determined to find a way through, even if it meant taking steps I never thought I'd have to take. After navigating this tumultuous journey of financial uncertainty, I've reached a point where reflection and introspection have become my daily companions. I've learned a lot about resilience, adaptability, and the courage it takes to face your fears head-on. Yet, despite my efforts, I find myself standing at a crossroads, unsure which path to take next. The emotional weight of my situation is still present, but I hold on to a flicker of hope that perhaps the collective wisdom of this community can offer a lifeline. Have any of you faced similar financial struggles? What drastic measures did you take, and how did they work out for you? I'm particularly interested in hearing about unexpected solutions or small changes that made a big difference. I know that I might not find a perfect answer, and maybe that's okay. Sometimes sharing our struggles is the first step toward healing and growth. I'm open to any advice or experiences you might share, whether it's about money management, lifestyle changes, or simply coping with stress. While I can't predict the future, I'm determined not to let fear dictate my actions. I hope that by reaching out I can find some clarity or at least a sense of solidarity with others who understand what it's like to walk this challenging path. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. Your insights could be the turning point I need to find my way to a more secure and hopeful future.